really needs to rain.
Let's make some boudin. About 2 hours later, we have 19 pounds of veggies.
So we got 28 pounds of pork butt. When you go to brown it, put your fat side down. That way it browns first and creates all the grease and juice and wonderfulness. You got a fire going. You get the pot good and hot before you put your meat in, so you can brown the bottom of the meat. Of course, you got a sweat towel because we are in Texas. It's only 105 degrees. I'm gonna start dropping my meat in. You can move that fat side down as best you can. It's 28 pounds of pork butt. You don't have to cut it up. I like it that way. It's easier to handle and it cooks faster. Oh yeah, I can smell it. So once you got your meat good and starting to brown a little bit, again, you're not trying to cook it. You're just trying to get it brown, just to add some flavor to your broth. And we're going to dump all of our vegetables in. Go ahead, baby. Again, it's 28 pounds of meat, 19 pounds of vegetables. We're hoping to yield about 75 pounds of boudin. We'll see what happens. Now we got about 5 pounds of chicken liver. We've already drained the blood off of it. And we're going to drop that in on top of it. Now you're going to add your water. With water, you want to fill it up to where it's just about maybe an inch or two above everything in your pot. Now we got our water added to it. Like I said, just cover it up a little bit above the meat. And give it a little bit of a stir just to mix everything together. And then we're going to start adding the spices. All right, so the first thing you do, get you a good cold beer and drink it, right? And you're going to set it down on your redneck golf cart. That Terry don't like, but I do. You add some salt. Terry always asks me how much, and to me it doesn't matter how much you put in. It's all up to you, according to your taste. As long as you have the right seasoning, nothing else matters. And I season everything to taste. Get your black pepper. Again, if you ever had my food, you know anything I cook, it's going to be spicy. You got some Tony Sacheries. And one of my favorites, some Slacker Mama. It adds a little bit more spice, a little more heat to it. Now if you like it, I like to add sage to mine. Probably add some more of that later on too. Of course, you got your cayenne pepper. That's a must-have for the heat. Sometimes she's right. Again, I like my food real spicy. So you may want to tame yours down. It's all up to you and what your flavor is. You got some chili powder. And one of my favorite spices, good old ground cumin. Good stuff. Gotta add some of that southern twang to it. All that in. All right, looking good. All right, so everything's put together. Now you're gonna turn your fire up. And let that get to a rolling boil. Get good and hot. Put the lid on. Once it's boiling, we'll come back in. Now we've got it to a good rolling boil. We'll give it a good stir. Get those casings off the side, get them inside the water. Now you're going to turn the fire down. You're going to reduce the heat and let it just simmer for about 2 hours. And we'll be back in. See how it's looking? It's been about 2 hours. That was great. There's one of the bigger pieces. It's almost there. When it gets where that meat is just falling off the bone, you can see it's already pulling away some. So now let it cook for a little bit longer. You want that meat as tender as you can get it. But man, that smells great. All right, so the meat's done. You can see that it's good and tender. I can stab right through a piece. There, you just cut it in half with that. Just stab right through it. That's where I want it, good and tender. Basket. Scoop all the meat and vegetables out and put them out this ice chest. All right, so the meat's done. You can see that it's good and tender. I can stab right through a piece. There, you just cut it in half with that. Just stab right through it. That's where I want it, good and tender. Basket. Scoop all the meat and vegetables out and put them out this ice chest. You strain as much of the juice as you can. We're going to use some of that later on. There's a big piece. All that fat. That's going to be a lot of good old tasty boudin. You know we ain't Cajun, we are Texans. Now, most of the meat's out, but we get all those vegetables too. That's flavor. You're gonna keep scooping till you get everything out. All right, so now you put some inside your mixer in small increments and you start mixing it to shred it and separate it using the paddle tool. At the same time doing this, you're still cooking more rice. There's a lot of rice to fill this boudin. All right, so now we have our rice and meat mixed together. We got about a 50-50 rice and meat combination here. But now we have to add green onions. This is probably about 8 bundles of green pepper we're gonna add to it. This is about 5 bundles of parsley. You wanna mix all that until you get a good consistency. You see the green all throughout. All right, so once you got it mixed pretty good, you're gonna start adding more seasonings. Again, this is all seasoned to taste, so you know your taste buds, you know what you like, you put what you want to in it. It needs a lot of salt. One thing boudin has to have, it's gotta be a salty mixture. Pepper, just regular black pepper. Again, I like sage in mine. Not everybody does, but I think it brings out the good flavor. Got some more chili powder. You got some more cayenne pepper. You gotta have that heat. If you're from the South, you know what I mean. You gotta have the heat. You got some good old slap your mama. And last but again not least, my favorite, ground cumin. You wanna keep mixing it until you get all mixed together, and then once you think it's all mixed in, you're gonna taste it. And of course, then you're gonna add what you want as far as the spices go until it tastes the way you want it to taste. All right, so I went out to the pot and I got some of the broth with the main goal to trade all the fat you can. You wanna save all the fat out of your pot that you can to mix in with this. So it's not quite where it needs to be. It's a little bit dry. We're gonna slowly just pour in the fat. The more fat you get, the better it's going to be. Again, it's not a very healthy meal, but it is definitely a yummy meal.
And there's Boudin. Welcome back to day 2, I think, of making Boudin.
So this time for smoking our boudin, I'm using a lot larger pit. This pit belongs to a friend of mine that he has said I could use. You better get a lot more boudin on here at one time. Got my fire already getting prepared. It's a lot easier, faster way to cook a large amount at one time.
These have been sitting in the refrigerator overnight. It's only half. And I'm about to separate them. And we're gonna weigh. That's what I'm doing while Bobby's starting the fire.
Got the fire going pretty good. Just waiting for the charcoals to turn gray and for the fire to calm down some, and I'll start adding my wood. And I'm using nothing but hickory logs.
I used to be terrified of cutting my Boudin because I figured it would bust out the ends. And we used to always just cook them whole lengths. But then I found out, researching, that we refrigerate them overnight, and that causes those little twisty parts that I did to seal. So it's okay to cut them, and they cook nicely. Bobby's fixing to show you. This is some of the Boudin. It is a total of 24 pounds.
All right, so my charcoal's got a nice grayish look to it now. Pretty much ready. So I'm just gonna grab a couple sticks of hickory. It won't take much because the pit's gonna be already hot. All I'm trying to do is get some smoke for the flavor. Again, all the Boudin is cooked except for the casing itself. So that's really all we're trying to do is cook that casing. That way it is safe to eat. And again, I prefer smoked Boudin over cooked in the oven. So we'll come back when the pit's ready. All right, so we got our pit nice and warm. It's almost 200 on that end. Almost 250 on this end. You can see that smoke just rolling out. We got a Boudin ready. This is the first batch. It was 24 pounds of Boudin links. Now we're gonna place them on the pit. So here we got about half of our Boudin, the 24 pounds of the first batch on there. Again, everything's inside is cooked, so all you're trying to do is cook that casing. So once that casing gets a nice firm feeling, has a good glaze on it, it'll be good to eat.
Hi. So this link, it didn't seal. I actually just twisted it. It looked like that. Don't cut that. This one's gonna be cooked together because it happens.
All right, now we're back to checking our Boudin and see how it's looking. Get this pit opened up. Oh yeah. Look at that nice caramelization on the skin. Good and firm. Ready to come off. You try your best not to bust the skin while you're picking them up. You have hot rice all over your fingers. And that, folks, is gonna be some good tasting smoked Boudin.
Hey, so sometimes I cheat. I didn't bring my pre-made bags, so I'm using my handy dandy cutting board for quilting. Got these bags that I already had here. Right about 9 inches. It's important to label your bags, and who doesn't like a smiley face? I weigh out all the proportions. I really like my pre-made bags better, but this is what I have here, so this is what I'm using. These are at room temperature, and I have it set on moist and airtight. Actually, vacuum seal and now seal. Done. Every now and then you might come into one that isn't quite still tight. You can keep it like that. It'll get freezer burn. Let's fix it. In my experience, there's one of two options here. You either cut this bag open just along the seal line and try to rearrange the links and restuff, or just rebag. But I always try to save the bag if I can, because you know that's money. I rearranged them, and we're gonna see. May work, may not. Might need to rebag the whole thing. Yeah, it's still too loose, see? I'll rebag it. I run into this problem more often using the rolled bags that you have to seal on both ends versus the ones I'm used to using that are ready to go. But this is what I'm using, so rebag. That's better. 50 pounds of smoked, packaged Boudin, ready to go in the freezer or to be eaten.
Now, this is a finished product of our smoked Boudin. It just cut right, nice and easy. Look at that. You can see the greens, you can see the peppers, you can see everything in it, the meat, the rice. It's gonna be yummy.
Good.
Oh yeah. Good job.
Mm-hmm.